Moe Factz with Adam Curry for February 5th, 2020. This is episode number 24. I am so happy I recorded this earlier in my basement. What a great track. Hey, Mo.
How you doing, Adam?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
I am doing well.
Yeah. Shoo, man. This is, of course, the podcast sometimes known as That ADOS Podcast. Only in certain circles. And I guess we're a day later than we had hoped, and apologies, but it's always going to be worth it because we have, I'm sure, a dynamite show lined up for you. Not that I actually know exactly what we're going to do. But I did have a few things to follow up on, or just a couple things to ask and one to follow up on from our last show, Mo.
Okay.
First of all, Super Bowl. I know you're a big football guy. This is the only football game I really will definitely watch. I'll just tell you briefly, I felt the television production was very kind of sparse and flat. I didn't see all the typical flying stuff and the stats and, just, I don't know, it seemed like pretty sparse. But what I missed was a lot of hype about, I think, what would have been the third black quarterback to win the Super Bowl. Was that underplayed this year because he's like half black, or what was going on?
Yeah. If you noticed, they don't put him in the black quarterback conversation. We've seen this before. I mentioned this before in the Colin Kaepernick episode, that they treated him the same way. They didn't mention that he was a black, right? Until it mattered. That's what threw me about him, because I was like, he could be, maybe,
right?
But yeah, you see the same thing with my homeboy, as well. So okay, because I found, I think, one article, but it wasn't even like a massive M5M publication. I was just like, that's kind of odd, because I looked him up, because I first of all, I need to know how to pronounce his name. Me, Mr. Sports Guy. So then I figured that out, and I say, wait a minute. So his dad was this, and they're all Major League Baseball players. And then, finally I found an article, his dad's black, his mom's white. And it's like, okay, well, where's the hype? Nothing. No, I just thought that was weird. This is the textbook example of being racially ambiguous.
Yeah.
I've used that term before, and this is no slight against him personally.
No.
But the corporation that the NFL is, I think it's a conscious.
Oh, you do? I think it's a conscious decision?
I believe so. I mean, because when you juxtapose that to LeVar Jackson, a real ADOS black quarterback.
Hold on. Now I got to go to Google.
Okay.
LeVar Jackson?
Yeah, Lamar.
I can hear half people going, oh, Lamar. Okay, gotcha.
Lamar Jackson.
Yeah. All right.
And they're the best two players. Yeah, they're the best two players in the NFL now. Because Lamar even won the MVP. 99% sure he won the MVP, but...
Well, Mahomes won MVP.
Yeah, last year. That's what I'm saying. It's weird. It's so weird.
Oh, gotcha.
You have these two men that are technically both are black, but how the story
now, are they both ADOS?
Yeah, I believe Mahomes' father is a ADOS, so that makes him ADOS, and Jackson's parents are ADOS as well. So, but yeah, I'm just saying the way the script is written.
Isn't that interesting? Right? Isn't that interesting? Because I hadn't heard anything about it, and I'm like, maybe he's more Latinx or something. That's why I went on a quest to go figure it out. And it's like, well, this is odd. All right, so that's their script. Okay, everyone's fine. But by the way, I love the way Mahomes plays. It's fantastic, and he's what, like 8 years old.
Yeah, he's like 22, 23.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, he's really young. So,
yeah. All right. The other thing I wanted to ask you about, Trump's State of the Union, which now I was going to ask you this last night. Actually, we're going to try and do it after the State of the Union. And I'm glad that we waited, because I think that there was a very obvious to me, very clear message towards Black Americans.
Wait. Can we go back for a minute to the Super Bowl? Because it's going to feed in. No, it's going to feed into this.
Okay, you're talking about the Tuskegee Airmen?
No.
Because he appeared at both.
The first break, the ad break for the Super Bowl.
Oh, yes, Trump's ad. You're right. Of course. What am I thinking? What a transition. I should have done that myself. Nice. You take
That's
over.
That's why we're partners.
Yeah.
That's why we're partners.
That's why there's two of us, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. So I'm sitting there watching the game, and then I see it. I'm like, uh-oh. He did it. He has the prison reform commercial.
Yes, exactly.
And it's in the first ad block.
Which is a good one.
I mean, which is the prime spot. I think it was like second commercial in the first block.
Yeah.
So that's like the perfect spot. And it's like targeted right at the black voter. Now I'll turn it back over to you.
Well, okay. So that was going to be my question is, what'd you think of the spot? Pandering? Did it hit? Was it on target? What was your thinking?
I saw a tweet today, and it was from, I think, Breitbart on Van Jones. And I think Van Jones quoted as saying,
"Look out.
Trump is doing something for real black people."
Yeah, just ADOS is now real black people.
I don't even think he meant ADOS specifically, but he means black people that you can relate to.
Oh,
when you look at the guy from Ohio that got cleaned up off the drugs, and you're saying got a business going.
Right. You're talking about the State of the Union now.
Yes, I'm going.
Yeah, going back and forth. That's fine. That's fine.
When you look at the lady in the criminal justice ad, these people could be your aunt or your uncle. I mean, they're not these crafted super black people.
Well, stop. Okay, help me identify super black.
Okay, what I mean is they didn't come up through Ivy League schools or
right.
or super intellectual or
Cory Booker.
I wouldn't even say him. I would say like the pundits that you see on CNN or MSNBC. They're not relatable.
Okay, gotcha.
When you see them, it's like, oh yeah, that could be my uncle, that could be my aunt, that could be the little girl that he had for the school choice. Yeah, that could be my little niece. That could be, these are real black people.
Yeah.
And when I saw that ad, I saw the article title. I didn't get a chance to read the article, but I'm guilty of reading headlines. I just didn't have time today to get to it. But I was like, yeah, they are real people.
All right. So what did you think of? Oh, now, who did you watch the Super Bowl with? Did you talk about it when you saw the ad?
Yeah, actually, me and my mother-in-law.
Wow.
She's probably the biggest Hillary hater.
Oh, is she a Trump lover or not care?
Oh, I would say that she appreciates his honesty.
Oh, wow.
And not the truth, but his honesty.
He is who he is kind of way.
Exactly. So me and her have these conversations. But yeah, she couldn't stand Hillary. Especially when she found out she threw a Bible or allegedly threw a Bible. That was bad.
That was
raps. That was
a
raps.
So what did she think of the ad?
It hit with her. Mm-hmm. Me and her kind of looked. We, like you see that. I was just blown back that he actually ran a political ad during the Super Bowl. But I understood it though. Right. I understood exactly what he was doing.
All right. So there was a lot of similar type messaging in the State of the Union. I personally, from a television executive standpoint, it's like, yes, totally nailed it. You've got, you're connecting a personal story to each and every one of your outcomes. It's like, yes, this was incredibly good, but it was a lot of black and brown faces. Intentionally so.
He had the redemption story, like I said, with the guy from Ohio, cleaned himself up with the opportunity zones. He had the single mother.
HBCUs.
The single mother crowd with the. Oh, yeah, he hit that one. Yeah,
he hit that one right off the bat.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of like wow, like you're really going after convincing black people that you're not bad for them.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting perspective.
That was my takeaway. That was my takeaway, and this contributes to my theory of the negative vote.
Right, which and I am of course preaching this everywhere because you've run the numbers with me, and he doesn't really have to chip away at that much. And I think Van Jones, in that very same piece that you referenced, specifically mentioned, black men.
Yes.
And so there may be an appeal there.
So, and like I said, just things ain't been bad for his argument is things haven't been bad for you, especially it's not as bad as they said it was going to be for you the last 4 years. So you just let me finish up here. And it's going to work out for you. That was my takeaway from the whole.
Convincing? Anything on Black Twitter?
I think the silence, you had to we have to look at the silence. We have to look at the negative or the missing, the lack of. And it wasn't like, oh yeah, a lot of hate. I didn't see a lot of hate for the State of the Union.
Right.
No more than usual.
Right.
But it was like one point, oh, look at Trump pandering. That's one word I didn't hear, that he was pandering. That didn't come across my timeline.
Interesting. Okay. Well, good. Thank you. Thank you for giving me your thoughts on that. I just, because obviously I'm sitting there thinking, all I can think of is, fuck, what does Moe think of this? I didn't give a shit. Like, what this sounds like he's doing something good here. I don't know. Nothing is really, well, maybe the historically black colleges and universities that could be considered some form of a tangible thing. But, the word reparations will never come up with Trump.
And I'm glad you walked me into a perfect segue, because if the ads won't work and the presenting your case to the American public won't work, specifically the black American public, then maybe clip number 1 will work.
Hey, can you be bought and sold? Yeah, can you? Well, that's what's going down. Remember that pastor, that guy, I think his name is Pastor Scott in Cleveland, the big Trump supporter. Basically has just been like riding for Trump for a long time. Well, they've got this like coalition. With what they're doing is they're holding events for black folks, and they're giving them money, asking them to vote for Donald Trump. And it's working. It's kind of sad because they're giving people that really are not going to do the research. And some of them, I hate to say it, are low information voters, one issue voters.
I saw this. I saw that you replied to a tweet about it and went, looks pretty tangible to me, or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
I wasn't sure how much sarcasm was in there, but I think it was exactly the way you intended it. At least I know, knowing you, I thought that was pretty funny.
So this stems from a political article. Trump, Trump give cash giveaway for black voters.
Yeah, that was the headline.
So they're saying allies of Donald Trump have begun holding events in black communities, and we spoke about these events in a previous show. And it says where organizers lavish praise on the president as they hand out tens of thousands of dollars to lucky attendees.
Woohoo!
So now, when Andrew Yang was giving money away to
that's math,
voters,
brother. That's just math.
That's just math. But now it's all these people are low information
dummies, losers.
So let me explain to who was speaking. That was Russ Parr. Are you familiar with Russ Parr?
No.
He's kind of like a knockoff.
Charlemagne.
No, your guy.
Tom Joyner.
Tom Joyner. He's kind of like a knockoff Tom Joyner.
Okay, but except he has a job still.
Is he getting paid though? Because if Tom Joyner's not getting paid,
no, Tom Joyner's done, isn't he?
Yeah, because he was saying he was basically working for free those last couple of years. So
you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised how shit radio has gotten. I'm talking like $12 an hour at Sirius XM. Believe me.
Right. So he calls people like these people that's taking the cash low information voters, and they're basically being duped.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to give you an example of the kind of commercials that he plays on his show. We Fix Money.
If you need $640 or $850, up to $2,500, just go to
WeFixMoney.com
and get the money you need as soon as tomorrow. WeFixMoney.com is free to use and available 24/7, and you don't need perfect credit. Go to WeFixMoney.com right now, and we'll guarantee that in 2 minutes, you'll find out if you're approved for a loan of up to $2,500. Money you could get by tomorrow. Go to WeFixMoney.com.
Mo,
Yes.
1980s Saturday Night Live, Eddie Murphy. A little bit more of the Eddie Murphy voice. Come on, we fix money. I mean, it's almost a parody of what would have been done then about how crazy advertising will get.
And this We Fix Money is a known predatory lender. This is a payday. These are payday
Oh
loans.
yeah, totally.
So you're willing to serve your audience up to predatory lenders, but then you talk down on people for taking cash for monetizing their vote. Which I'm gonna tell you, explain. Okay, let me explain to people. What we're talking about now is just going to be a sub-segment. Just a sub-little section of the show, and then we'll get into the real show. But I was really so irked by this because these gatekeepers are pissed that basically voting is turning into some form of gig work. It's like, I don't need a big structure. I'm going to take my cash straight to the people. Give it to them, and then they'll go out and they'll perform the task of voting. If these claims are true. And I'm looking at it from both sides, from the Yang side and the Trump side. Put the money inside the people's hands. And that's why I did say it tongue in cheek. This is something tangible, but it is.
Yeah.
If somebody's giving you $1,000 for your vote, these probably the same people been targeted by this.
I thought it was like 100. Was it 1,000?
Well, the article says they're handing out 10. Of course, they're going to embellish. And they said the article says they're handing out tens of thousands of dollars to lucky attendees. Ooh, so that could be the total sum could be tens of thousands of dollars. Right. But if I wasn't going to vote, or you're going to give me $200, $300, $400 to vote another way, hey, that's more I might see for $4. Yeah,
right.
I'm not knocking you.
No.
Hey, it's tangible.
Of course, I'm down with that.
You're right. So, but let's get back to Mr. Russ Parr and his just nasty talking to black people.
Donald Trump gave me money. I don't care about kids in cages. I don't care about asshole nations. I don't care that he's lining the pockets of all his rich friends. I don't care all these policies hurt me. Oh, yeah, he's let a couple people out of jail. Yeah, prison reform, that's great. But you don't want to be a one-issue voter, y'all. You just don't want to do that. But now you can be bought? Is that easy now? So this guy, Minister Scott, they're going around to Cleveland and other places, and they're saying, okay, I'm going to give you a couple $100. All you got to do is say, yes, I'll vote for Donald Trump because he's done so much for black people.
Yeah, well, this guy is clearly, it's obvious what his position is and what movie he watches.
So how did kids in cages help black people? Because he's saying we're one issue voters. If you're taking the money, these things are hurting you. Kids in cages, that's immigration. And I'm not saying I don't condone placing children in cages, but what I'm saying is the topic behind the talking point, immigration.
Yeah.
Shithole nations, immigration. You becoming a one topic. We've been a one topic a voting block for
forever,
40 years.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden, you get your senses together. You know why? Because he's being cut out the picture. If the cash goes straight to the people, gatekeepers have no purpose anymore.
Well, of course, but I don't even know if he sees it that way. Where does this air? What network is this syndicated?
He's syndicated. Yeah, he's syndicated. So he's across. I lived in Durham, North Carolina, and I lived here in Northern Virginia, and he's on stations in both areas.
Nice. Afternoon show, morning show?
Morning show. Morning. This is all morning. But yeah, he's like, it's harmful to the community, and this next clip is really gonna irk me.
Some people in his administrations refer to them as coloreds. There are good coloreds and there's some bad coloreds. But listen, y'all, you've got to be informed. You can't, well, I can't tell you what to do, but don't take that money. You're selling out. You can be bought. We have to have some personal integrity. We have to do the research to find out what he stands for and what he doesn't stand for. The man could care less unless your name is Diamond and Silk, or maybe that Pastor Scott and maybe Armstrong Williams. I don't know. But he's got a few people. Herman Cain, used to 999. Yeah, he started another organization. I think it's called Black Voices for Trump. And they're doing the same thing. They're going around and they're buying votes.
Okay, what irked you?
Colored people, you're offended by that, but the Democrats call you people of color all day long.
Can I just say something? I know you're mad.
Sorry.
I know you're mad.
I'm sorry, I'm ranting. I'm sorry.
No, I got a bone to pick.
Yes.
Since the last show, I cannot stop hearing people of color. I hear this everywhere, and I'm seeing the former campaign PR for Hillary Clinton. Maxwell is her name. She got the OG hair. I mean, beautiful woman, but she's like she keeps saying people of color, and of course, after you programmed me and everybody else, all I hear is color people. I'm like, holy crap! And then I hear, and of course, we got a lot of colored people on TV lately. We got who's the RNC, the former RNC chair, and just a lot of people walking around, and I hear it all the time now. And I think,
yes,
is it just Moe? Can't be. It can't be.
How'd you like go back to the Super Bowl? How'd you like that people of color halftime show?
I got a whole.
Was heavy on the brown and light on the black.
Yeah, I got a whole bone to pick with that. But yes,
I digress. I'm just saying, but just yeah.
I was thinking this could actually be the first podcast I've ever participated in where we're going to come up with the exit strategy early on. Because I'm thinking, soon we'll have facial recognition technology for everybody. I mean, it's coming. Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of, who's going to pay for it, because it does take some processing on the back end. But everyone's so available and scannable. It's that we'll be able to have an app. I'm going to call it the ADOS app. And you basically just point your phone at somebody and they'll say ADOS or non-ADOS. Because this is what I'm missing. When I hear ADOS people saying people of color, I'm confused. But maybe it's just the setting that they're in.
It's working.
Oh no, they've got me. Save me, Mo.
So me and John Dvorak, the John Dvorak, had a little DM.
Okay.
And basically, I told him that people of color equals non-white, which equals not important. And he agreed.
Yeah, I'm sure he agrees.
Because it's like,
he likes saying the blacks. That's his.
Yeah, let's just lump them all together, like in this nice little ball that's manageable, and there you go. But Mr. Russ Parr has a problem with color people, I'm sure he uses the term people of color. But let's listen to how he portrays Asian American people.
It's about time we get to have a month for us.
Oh, well, good.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Because you guys celebrated. Oh, yeah.
You guys.
Every month. That's why you black men talk about. I'm so sick of black everything.
What?
You have a black history month.
Right.
You have a black music month.
Wait a minute.
And you have a Juneteenth coming, and half of you jumboos can't spell it.
Jigaboo.
First off,
wow.
Manling, you're being very disgusting right now.
And very
I
racist.
am so sick of your Negro spiritual singing acid.
You can't just call Prince.
Yo, my overcame, and someday has already come. Why you still singing it? I am so tired of hearing you celebrating. You don't know what you even celebrating. Anything for you to go to the liquor store.
Goodbye, Mei Ling.
Yeah. Listen.
So this is a bit, obviously.
Yes, this is a reoccurring character Mei Ling, that works in a nail shop.
You know, now I got to tell you, we're only 10 years apart or so. But this is, I come from the time on the radio where we had these characters. You had the crazy Chinese guy. You had cause I worked in New York radio. You had the guy from Harlem. You'd have Mr. Leonard, who was from Mars, so, and all these, and it was, and I'm talking about late 80s, 90s, and everyone seemed kind of to laugh about themselves. That went away. So it's hard for me. I can't get mad at this. I'm like, all right. There was some funny pieces of it, but
I'm not mad about it. I'm saying the hypocrisy.
Sure.
If this was on another show that lacked melanin, it'll be, forced to, they were trying to counsel their advertisers.
Of course. Yes, you're right. You're right.
And not only this, but he also portrays black people in a very negative way on the majority of his show. I was very irked by this show, period.
I can tell.
This guy really irks. But I'm going to wrap this up soon. Let's just get into clip number 4.
Some pastors were paid years ago to take money to influence their congregation to vote for George W. Bush. And they did. And it's been proven. That's what they've done. Because a lot of y'all just listen to your pastors, and say, like, I'm going to follow you like sheep. It's okay to take this money, even though I'm going to hurt some people. Yeah, you have a little personal gain for a moment, but the long-term effects, so many people are damaged by it. We have to have a mind of our own. I'm not telling you not to vote for Donald Trump, but if you do your research, you find out that he does not have your best interests in mind. He doesn't. It's simple. That's just my opinion. We're not monolithic where we all vote the same.
Was it your opinion or fact, bro?
But at least have an informed decision as to whose money you're going to take in order to be bribed. And I don't know how legal that is, but I guess they'll figure a way around it because the president's above the law. You see it every day up on Capitol Hill,
point.
And nobody wants to hold him accountable. But you can. In November 2020, yes, this year, you can hold him accountable. Woo! You can vote. That's my rant.
That's his rant. Yeah. Oh, please. This guy is, besides, I don't know if he's really influential, but as a broadcaster, he's mediocre. I mean, he's just repeating. I mean, I could do a show like that. I could do a minute of talking points. And then
he's a great value, Tom Joyner.
Oh, brother.
That's what he is. But it's just that I'm not telling you not to vote for Trump, and we're not a monolith. Since when?
Right.
Since when have we not been a monolith when it comes to voting?
Mo, run the numbers for me again. What percentage of, and I'll say the black vote, because that's what they're kind of using, does not have to vote Democrat for basically to be all over for a Democrat candidate?
Well, 2012, it was 67% turnout of the black vote.
67.
When Trump won in 2016, it was down to 59%.
Right.
It's very. If it stays at 59 or drops even lower, you can't make those votes up. You can't make them up.
I think you were saying that really is a matter of maybe 5 points.
Yeah, I mean, if it just stays at 59, they need it to be around 65, 67% to have a chance to win. That's why they lost in 2016, and that's what they don't really want to talk about. But this is why everything is people of color.
I watched the Iowa caucuses very closely. I wanted to understand it, and I'm glad I did because it became super entertaining. Certainly to watch broadcasters struggle for hours on end to fill time. I think I heard at least 3 candidates all use the people of color term. Mm-hmm. And then subsequently, of course, I heard everywhere else that actually the caucuses are completely racist because only white people can come out on a Monday night and blah, blah, blah. And only black people babysit for the white people who can go out on Monday night. It's like, okay, fine, whatever.
I was like 90-something% white.
Yeah, of course.
So
what do you expect?
All this black swing vote that was going to really shake things up and out? I mean, and we even covered this in the last show because that's exactly where they had the People of Color Summit or whatever it was called for Vice.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
So knock it off.
Piss me off some more. Let's do the last.
So this rant is from another rant of his, and it's a convo with a Trump supporter.
All right, this following statements that I'm about to make are not applicable to all white folks or other groups that may see their entitlement slipping away.
Oh.
But I was on a flight, and I was wearing my Make America Barack Again hat. The guy asked me what it was all about and was talking about it was about a better time, and you can order it on uptopar.net. And this guy I could see that he was getting a little irritated because obviously he is not a Barack Obama fan, which I'm cool with it. But it was an intriguing conversation that we started to have. I mean, he got comfortable and very candid with a glass of wine, and he said a lot of things. And his ideology was like a white nationalist. I said, God, this guy doesn't even know that he's a white nationalist. You know, he's putting all that out there, and I'm sitting there going, man. But what he said in so many words, he says that Trump has made them realize that most whites are being discriminated against in America in favor of minorities.
So first of all, this was no low information voter because clearly they're sitting in first class drinking a nice glass of wine.
Right.
So I'm going to take that with a grain of salt.
Mm-hmm. So this leads us into the real topic of the show, and the topic of the show is what happens allegedly when a white person attempts to defend their perceived privilege that they have.
Oh, nice. This is about me. Hold on a second. Let's roll it round and round and round, ladies and gentlemen. The Wheel of Topics, Moe Factz with Adam Curry. And we stop today on the lucky topic that is...
Today we're going to talk about the concept of white fragility.
That's the term? White fragility?
Yes.
White guilt is easier to remember. Fragility, three syllables.
Wait. They're not the same.
No, I know they're not.
Okay, so
I got a lot to learn.
Have you heard this term before?
No, I have not.
This is new to me. I found this maybe several weeks ago, and I tucked it away. I was like, I got to look into whatever this white fragility is because it sounds pretty.
One of those bookmarks,
right?
It's like, is that even snowflakier than snowflake? If you're white and you're fragile?
Yeah, it's an aggressive fragile.
Huh.
if it's a such thing.
Okay.
But what we have here is Miss D'Angelo. Her name is, who came up with the term. Her name is Robin J. D'Angelo. And she has a PhD in multicultural education, of course. And in a 2011 academic paper, she put forward the concept of white fragility. So this is a somewhat new term.
I'm going to welcome in Robin D'Angelo. She's a sociologist, American sociologist and author, whose book is here. It's called White Fragility. Robin, explain, what is white fragility?
Well, social life is patterned and predictable in observable and describable ways, and racial inequality is a very consistent pattern, and so is the overall white response to it, or to when that issue is raised. So what I'm doing is describing one particular common white pattern and offering an explanation not only for how we come to have that pattern, but also how it functions. So the pattern is the defensiveness at any suggestion that racial inequality exists and that each of us is a part of it.
And that's the only way you can define that, huh? So it has to be all of the above.
Yes. So basically how it works is if I say, hey, Adam, you have white privilege. You say, no, I don't. And then I say, well, you have white privilege and white fragility.
Wow. I remember the first time I was called out as having white privilege, and it was at a dinner party, and it's going to be 4.5 years ago, maybe. And it was a professor who I respect from the University of Texas. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'd never really heard the term, and I certainly had never been accused of, and they literally like, you have white privilege. So what? So what are you talking about? You have white privilege. You can't deny that. And it was really uncomfortable. And so I guess I would have had white fragility there.
That pushback that you gave, I'm sure after you left, is like, how about Curry and his white fragility?
Well, I wish they had said that to me then, so I could have known I was violating not one but two principles of nature.
Yes. So what we're going to do here is we're going to examine this term.
This woman is white, this Robin DiAngelo.
Yes.
Yes.
She's a white lady.
Okay.
And she coined the term and then later wrote a book about the term, which I think these terms, well,
that's how you get one, you write a book about it and say, oh, there's this term, I made it up.
Yeah. So we're going to look at how it came about, what it is. We're going to look at a counter argument against it, and then how it's determined that a person has white fragility or not. So,
and will this episode also give me the tools so that I can defend myself against not just falling into the white fragility trap, but against white fragility in general?
Curry, goggles.
Gotcha. I'm sorry. I'll shut up.
All right. So let's get to the second part of that clip.
The term fragility is meant to capture how little it takes to set us off. For many white people, the mere suggestion that being white has meaning will cause great umbrage. Generalizing about white people will cause great upset and umbrage. But the impact of that umbrage is not fragile at all. It functions as a very powerful way to repel the challenge and to protect the racial hierarchy.
I like this episode because I get to think a lot harder about myself. I agree with a lot of what she said in the beginning of that clip, but at the end, this protect the white hierarchy, no, fuck no, not for a second. I don't give a shit about that. I remember being accused of white privilege for the first time, so it's in my mind, and I did not think of, I have to protect the hierarchy. None of that. So she just, not with me at least. I'm not your typical white guy, but no.
And that's why I wanted with this show to bounce this idea off. And this is typically, these terms are bounced between two white people.
No, yeah, totally.
I've never heard this term, so I can't use it. And I've never heard a person of any color.
Whoa, you were going there.
Yes.
You stopped yourself in time, but you...
No, because I was going to say a person, and I was going to say, because I was thinking about not just black people. I had never heard, because I work with a bunch of different ethnicities. I haven't heard, a colored person use that term. So it's like, hey, man, where'd this come from? I read.
Why don't you be like Parr and just call them coloreds? Come on, man, you can do that.
Yeah. So I'm in the loop. And I've never heard it. When I heard it, I was like, holy crap, what is this term that she just used? It wasn't even her. It was, I forgot where I heard it. I heard it in another clip. It was like a pundit talking or whatever. So I jotted it down.
I'm sure it's out there. I'm sure it's out there. I'm sure people are talking about it.
But
Absolutely.
This goes back to the real black people or the real people and real whatever fill in the blank person that's non-white.
Right.
We don't use terms like this.
No.
This is stuff that's circled around, into the upper crust academia society, and it's like, contemplating my white fragility, and I just really need to do more to give back to the the black community.
I think these types of terms and concepts, I think, hurt everybody. I don't think it's good. I don't think it has any positive. Awareness is always good. I think a lot of people are, this person's racist or whatever. Ignorance is, I've discovered through, just my friendship with you, that it's ignorance. I just didn't know. So there's a lot of things that may come across as racist, but purely ignorance. I think there's got to be something in your heart or soul's got to be there for it to truly be racist. And then, so you get these kind of compensation terms.
So let's just revisit my definition of racism, which is just a form of nepotism. That's how I see racism. So if you say, Adam, you got your job because your dad's the CEO of the company, of course you're going to rebut that and be like, what? I work hard for wherever position I have in this company. It's not just because my dad gave it to me. So that would be like a form of not white fragility, but that was like nepotism fragility. Because it's like,
yeah.
Because it's like you're invalidating all the work I've done and just saying simply because of what I am and not who I am, I got the spot.
Right, and it's purely an assumption.
Right, so I can understand the pushback, but it's like a trap.
Yeah.
Because when you say somebody has a privilege.
Yeah, and then you say, no, I don't. They're like, boom. Oh, yeah, I nailed him. Oh, shit, I fell into that one. It's like Lucy in the Football twice.
It's a twofer. It's like, you have privilege and fragility.
Yeah. Boom, boom. Yeah, left and a hook.
Which is a perfect trap. I mean, if that's what you set it up to be.
Totally.
So let's get into the third and final clip of this segment.
In your research, and I read the first few chapters of White Fragility, not all of it, do you think most white people are racist without realizing it?
Yes. I don't think it's possible to avoid absorbing racist worldview and racist biases because they are circulating 24/7 in the culture. They're in the language, they're in the institutions, they're in the media and the film, they're in the overwhelmingly white teaching force and curriculum and the centering of a white worldview, but positioning it as a universal human worldview.
Ash?
Yeah. So what word she had missing from there is white supremacy. And that makes people recoil because it's like, I am not a white supremacy denier.
Right.
I believe it exists, but just like racism, I think people don't understand these terms that they use, and they use them incorrectly, and it does nobody any good to throw these terms around because it really like weakens the term.
Mm-hmm.
So
definitely,
I want to go back to a throwback clip just so we can define what exactly white supremacy is.
Well, we are in a system of white supremacy. That's the most powerful government that the world has ever seen, and that's the title of it, by the way. It doesn't go by any other title, even though we sometimes call it by other titles, but the accurate title for the government that we are under is, in capital letters, the system of white supremacy worldwide. It's just one world government. And that's the only government in town, the only government on the planet that really counts, that is worthy of having the title of government.
Yeah, I love this clip. I think it's a true Moe Factz classic. I'm glad you brought that back again. That was Fuller, right?
Yes. So when we talk about this thing, I want to make sure we use the correct definition. Some people call it the Illuminati. Some people call it, other
New World Order is he said
New World Order. That's another one.
Liberal World Order.
Yep. So, but what these secret societies or whatever you want to call them are based off of are really bloodlines, correct?
Yep.
So, I think we define whiteness wrong, and we don't understand the origins of race.
No, excellent point.
So I have Miss Danielle Bainbridge from PBS, and she's going to give us some history on the origins of race in the U.S.
But these racial categorizations didn't always neatly align with skin tone. In his book, Whiteness of a Different Color, European Immigrants and the Alchemy of Race, historian Matthew Jacobson notes that in the U.S., white or Caucasian was not always considered a unified race composed of anyone of European descent. Whiteness was often considered exclusive to Anglo-Saxon descendants, while other European groups were broken into different ethnic categories such as Celt, Slavs, Iberics, and Hebrews, which were considered separate races from the 1840s to the early 20th century. But in the 1920s, when there was a stemming of immigration from Europe, these different races were subsumed into one category called whiteness to shore up a cultural majority against other racial groups and immigrants. And this persisted throughout the 20th century. So how does it all add up? Well, race started as a marker of kinship, but then we see it shift to become less about familial inheritance and more focused on physical indicators due to the rise of Enlightenment reasoning and labor exploitation. But where does that leave us today?
Yeah, this reminds me, I want you to delve into that. This reminds me of a story that Barack Obama, through bloodlines, is related to George W. Bush.
Mm-hmm. which technically he is passing for white or could pass for white.
Yes.
I mean, we want to use the term of passing. And it's a couple things she said in that clip. One, she said whiteness, or the term white, was created to shore up a racial majority.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't that sound eerily similar to what we're going through now with colored people?
You're killing me, Mo. Yes, that's exactly what it is. Of course, this is beautiful. Beautiful.
And so then you have people wanting to pass into whiteness.
Whiteness, yes.
As we talked about before. It wasn't about my origin or my bloodlines.
This is interesting because going back to what what's her face said, Robin DiAngelo, which said protecting the hierarchy. Well, I can see where she may have a point there if you're talking about bloodline hierarchy. But of course, that doesn't make me white then, because I don't have the bloodline hierarchy.
But once you were lumped into that racial majority,
it
allows you certain privileges to move without being accosted, or we're talking about right after slavery or during slavery. We're not talking about now.
Yeah.
So if you appeared, and a lot of black people that passed, J. Edgar Hoover, he was allowed to move. If he was seen as a black man and he was doing what he was doing as far as spying on people and everything, he wouldn't have got that far.
No, certainly not in the day. No.
So he took advantage of passing to take advantage of that privilege.
Right.
But it's a very fluid thing, and when we say white, most people don't even understand what that means. It means that you're part of a superior class. And the closest thing that we have to white nowadays is still that still exists is the monarchy.
Yeah.
And in Great Britain.
Yep.
That is literally white.
Yes.
And even you know who I'm talking about. Meghan Markle.
Mm-hmm.
She couldn't pass to be white.
Right.
Even though she appeared to be. I mean, if you didn't,
that's why she had to go. I mean, had to get rid of her.
Right. Or she couldn't. Yeah.
She couldn't handle it. She didn't pass the passing test. So you got to go.
Because it wasn't about skin color. I mean,
exactly.
It may have on the surface maybe, but no, it was like, you don't come from this.
Right. And then
standing in life.
Yeah. And then the queen went, hold on a second. That redhead isn't one of ours either. Get him out.
Both of them couldn't pass.
Yeah, no way.
So that tell you, white is a very exclusive club. The real textbook technical.
Right.
And if you could do me a favor, could you play like the last 20, 30 seconds of clip number 13 one more time? I just want to define what we're talking about when I say white.
Okay, the last 30 seconds. Sure thing.
Celt, Slavs, Iberics, and Hebrews, which were considered separate races from the 1840s to the early 20th century. But in the 1920s, when there was a stemming of immigration from Europe, these different races were subsumed into one category called whiteness to shore up a cultural majority against other racial groups and immigrants. And this persisted throughout the 20th century. So how does it all add up? Well, race started as a marker of kinship, but then we see it shift to become less about familial inheritance and more focused on physical indicators due to the rise of Enlightenment reasoning and labor exploitation. But where does that leave us today?
So when I say that term, I'm talking about familiar inheritance, which Barack Obama is by that definition white.
Yeah.
And a Meghan Markle is not. Or even a Prince Harry is not white.
Correct.
So I just want to lay these things out.
It's a mind bender, but yeah, these are the true definitions. But this is exactly what happens over the ages. You know, it doesn't even take that long. The meanings change; they get kind of smoothed over. It becomes an acceptable term. Someone throws something out there, it sticks, and then before you know it, it's all changed. And words matter, man. Words matter.
That's just like when you say black.
Yeah,
black 30 years ago meant something totally different.
Yep.
Than it means now. You have to have but I digress. But I just want to lay that out. So when we talk about the term white, we understand what we're saying and what people have proximity to and trying to align themselves with. It's not a pigment of your skin or a color of your skin. That it's this power structure that people want to tap into. But one guy that always tells the truth is Mr. Dick Gregory, and I don't have to ask you if you know.
Of course I know. Of course, I love Dick Gregory. Of course.
So Dick Gregory is going to explain white supremacy versus white privilege.
One of the things a lot of people are commenting on, and after watching your videos, they want to know what your thoughts are, the difference between white supremacy and white privilege.
White supremacy? People that got white supremacy get killed by white supremacy. People got white privilege still have to go to the military. The big folks don't go. White supreme. They just break the word down. I'm white and I'm supreme. It didn't say supreme to niggas. I'm supreme to anybody who ain't my blood. It's simple. It's a good question you asked. And thank God you shut up long enough to hear an answer.
Is that one of the last one, YouTube video that I remember? It's just when that first came out, people were like, "What, man? Who is this guy?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's Dick Gregory."
Dick Gregory, and he always beats up on the interviewer. I mean, that's like his
that's his shtick. It's his shtick.
His trademark. Yeah. It's like so. But as he said, it's about bloodline. They have no pity or sending poor, quote unquote, and I'm going to use this term because I use it for blacks, quote unquote, white people to go die for whatever reason. You know, I mean, they just, whatever. It's like, it furthers, you know, I won't send my son to dark. Some do, but majority, no. No, we're above that. We don't do that.
Yeah.
and I hope at the end of this podcast, hopefully it doesn't take that long, but we realize that we're all in the same boat together.
Exactly. Unless you're supreme, if you're out there and you're supreme, you should stop listening. It's only going to get worse.
Or use that privilege to
right, exactly.
To spread the word. But Dick Gregory's doing such a great job. Let's let him continue.
Because the answer is in the name. Huh? I say to my children, that's one of the richest men in the world. They don't have to ask why. It's in what I told them. Huh? In what I told them. Queen Elizabeth. See, white ain't a color. Most of y'all ain't never met a white person. White person ain't never met a white person. White's not a color, it's an attitude. And if you ain't got trillions of dollars in the bank, you can't have the attitude.
Here's the thing. I've actually met her.
Really?
I met the Queen, yes. I met her at the palace. You didn't know that?
I did not. I learned something new every show. Wow.
Yeah, they picked me up, and they actually, if you look at Buckingham Palace, right through the front gates. And now it was not the only person. It was for it was for the relaunch of her Royal Highness's website, but still, it was only like a handful. It wasn't like hundreds of people. And I was in the line, and I said hi, and I had already decided I was going to look her straight in the eye, and I was not going to bow. Or now she's standing on a box because she's 4'9" or something, and I shake her hand, it's a glove, and I look her in the eye, and you know what I saw?
Slits?
Nothing, man. Dark, just nothing at all. I was looking to see if the eyes would go reptile, but they didn't.
That's why I was saying slits.
No, yeah. I know what you're saying.
For the people out there that don't know. So you're one of the few people that actually met a real white person.
An actual white person, yes, and severely unimpressive, to be honest. I mean, I don't want to insult anybody, but I wasn't like, woo, this has got some sheen. I mean, I'm Steve Jobs, Quincy Jones. I put those way higher on the list than the Queen.
Now, I'm about to blow your mind here.
All right.
You could tell that story in a different way and use your proximity to whiteness.
To become supreme?
Well, to use the privilege.
And I can use it. So I can say yes. And I deserve that privilege. And I'm going to put you in your place. Okay. This is an unexpected twist. All right. I'm ready.
So now we're starting to get the people use these terms, do it, not white fragility. That was made up. But white privilege, white supremacy, these things do exist, but people don't have them. We're accusing the wrong people of having it. That's the real problem. And if we accuse the right people, then we could get those people out of power.
And we could make the world a better place.
Yeah, exactly. So we have Mr. DeRay McKesson from Black Lives Matter and Little Blue Vest fame. He's going to give his take on whiteness, white supremacy, and privilege.
What's the difference between whiteness and white supremacy?
White supremacy is a system that says that white people are the norm, are normative, are worth more, and are valued at the expense of others. And we think about a culture that idea spawns, that is whiteness. And then we think about white people as people who benefit from the system of white supremacy, whether they participate in it actively or not. And part of this work is about helping people understand that allies and accomplices are people who understand the work. They understand that there's an issue. And understanding white privilege says that I get that I participate in a dominant culture and I benefit from a system of white supremacy, whether I've done something supremacist or not. And that is a personal recognition.
Right. He has it all wrong.
Yes. No kidding.
That's why I wanted to play these two clips back to back. So you could hear one guy say, most white people don't know a white person. And this guy said, oh, it's the norm. No, it's not. That's what no, it's not the norm. In the sense of how he's saying it. That's what makes them special. That's what makes people curtsy and not trust them.
Yes. Thank you. You've just answered one of my biggest questions. I did not expect this. One of my big questions, having lived in the Netherlands, the Kingdom of the Netherlands, having lived in the Kingdom, the United Kingdom of the Queens and Elizabeths and all that, I've always wondered, why do seemingly rational people who speak of science and, hate, billionaires and all, why do they kowtow to these ugly people who live in the biggest houses in the middle of your cities with funny hats and say, oh, it's just tradition? Because they truly are the privilege. They are the supreme white beings. Thank you.
Why are they the privilege? The blood.
The blood.
The lineage.
Yep. That's right.
That's what you're respecting.
That's right. And thank you again. I got to remember this. you're respecting the bloodline. And then I always can throw in of the lizard people or whatever. I can say Illuminati, or I could throw in something else. But yes. Thank you, Mo.
And so what people do is they say, well, I kind of look like them.
So therefore, you must be just like them. And as we know, my personal experience is these people are nothing like us.
Mm-hmm.
Not like me and not like you.
And they'll tell you that.
Oh, yeah. They'll make sure you know just the way they treat you.
Don't touch me.
Yeah.
Don't touch. Just imagine a human being is like, no, you cannot touch me.
Yeah.
That's the ultimate privilege. It's like, you don't even, you going to hand me something, put a glove on that nasty commoner hand of yours.
Commoner. Yes, nice. Wow.
Right.
So then what happened, man? I guess they were really smart and they said, hey, I know. Well, that's kind of what that previous clip said. I know.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be able to operate out in the open, full secret out in the open, by making everybody else white.
And let's bring it to modern day times when you have this hodgepodge of different shades of brown people.
Mm-hmm.
See, they would love to say brown.
Let's just
people,
call them black.
No, they can't say that.
Colored people.
They can't say black. They can't say brown because these things mean something.
We can say
so
colored
they need to
people.
come up with a term to create a political majority. That's what they said. The reason why they brought a lot of the immigrants in, European immigrants in.
Yeah,
we're doing the same thing. It's the left is just repeating what happened in previous history. That's all we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So let's let DeRay McKesson finish up.
We want people to take that personal recognition a step further and say, like, what are the systemic things that actually create this privilege in the first place? And we want them to fight at that level. That's what accomplices do. But I wanted to, I tweet a lot this phrase, watch whiteness work.
So if you were to just summarize in like a sentence, what is your message to the white community and white people?
White people got to organize themselves, have to join solidarity work with people of color, and have to use personal experiences to think about how systems allow privilege to manifest at the personal level.
Yeah.
Why would they want to do that? It makes no sense. Wow. True white people.
Well,
true white. What we're talking about, true white people.
Yeah, but DeRay McKesson is clearly a white supremacist. He's in on the game.
By him.
He's in on the game.
He's funded by a white person, Soros.
Yeah, there you go. That's what I'm saying. It's obvious.
So this is just, he's propped up to say, oh yeah, we're doing something.
Yeah.
But they know it's not going to be effective, but it's like, we have to do something. So I know everybody's saying, well, I thought we were going to talk about white fragility. Yeah, that's what we're talking about now. But we just have to.
I'm not complaining. I'm having a good time. I'm liking it.
Yeah, I'm just saying we have to lay out the term, one, white. It's two words, white and then fragility.
Mm-hmm.
So we've defined the white part.
Yes, got it.
Or demystified it, because people use that term completely wrong. But now we're going to get into the fragility part.
All right.
So I was listening to one of my favorite YouTube channels, Essence, and they had a thing about fighting racism and white supremacy in the Trump era, and they had some tweets that kind of defined what white fragility sounds like.
We asked you on social media, what have your experiences been like when talking to white people about race? And here's what you said. While Raven3 tweeted, often I get called a racist for calling out racial issues, always met with deflection, denial, and defensiveness. Keep It Moving 1114 wrote, most tell me slavery is over, and why am I still so angry? Some white people don't realize that they still benefit from the wealth of their ancestors. And Nay by Nature said simply, they just don't get it. Ooh, Those are some really interesting comments. What do you all?
So these are people interacting with quote unquote white people, and they're experiencing the pushback of white fragility against them when they call them out.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what you just heard. So now we're going to get into debunking the myths of white people tell about race.
I'll never forget a moment of standing beside a black man leading a workshop on race, and a white woman said to him, "I don't see color." He said, "Well, then how are you going to see racism?" "Because I am black. I do think you know that, and I have a different experience than you do. And you're not going to be able to understand that, and you're not going to be able to support the parts of that experience that are really painful and problematic if you refuse to acknowledge my reality." I don't see color is really a way of saying I refuse to acknowledge your reality.
Yeah. Well, and again, I think it's just ignorance. That's and it comes from a defensive, as a white person amongst white people, you're on the defensive all the time.
But isn't that what Dr. King was pushing for? I'm not naive. But what I'm saying is, if you use the left rhetoric and their
no, of course,
the way they use Dr. King as a control mechanism. We talked about this on the MLK show. Mm-hmm. He's used as a control mechanism, so it's like, one world, and we're all want to be judged by content in our character and not the color of our skin. So, wouldn't the goal to be not to see color? I would judge you off of who you are, how you talk, how you carry yourself, off your capabilities and qualifications.
Yeah, well, okay. Let me try this one on for size.
Okay.
Because a white person, or just say, a light-skinned person, see, in the context of what we're talking about,
that's fine.
What people would call a white person, a white person. Right. In that context, with Martin Luther King, it sounds like it's a good idea. It's like, oh, okay, I heard not by the color of his skin, but by by his character. And so it's a logical leap, but that means that you figured it out, so we had to put you back in your place, Whitey. We got to say, no. You can't figure out that color doesn't matter, so we got to give you something. This is a long-term propaganda of terms, where people start using something, then we got to push it down again because we found I think it's ultimately all about control.
I totally agree. And the control mechanism is we have to keep one group in their victimization mentality. And in order to do that, you have to label them a color, self-identify as that color. And then you have to get the white people to buy in and say, no. Exactly. You cannot not see them as a color.
You're right.
For this scheme to work.
Yeah, it's wrong again, Whitey.
Mo, you have to be black.
Yeah.
By the definition that we label black, or a colored person, or a colored, or however you want to call it. And then you have to, Adam, you have to be white.
I'm whitey.
And you have to see the colors.
Yes.
For this whole, we can't come together and have this conversation. No, this is bad.
I got to see it.
This is bad.
I got to constantly be reminded. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's and despicable, really.
And even a black friend won't save you.
What's important about that narrative is it reveals what the person thinks racism is. So if the person is using proximity, fondness across race as evidence of a lack of racism, in order for that to be good evidence, a racist must not be able to do that. So that rests on an understanding that a racist cannot tolerate proximity to people of color. And I'm hoping that we can see that's pretty absurd, because trust me, even avowed racists can tolerate being around people of color, and often are.
So here's what I often say.
Okay.
I said, I do a podcast with a black man. I mean, don't have the camera on or anything, but I do the podcast with him.
Mm-hmm.
This it's really embarrassing to hear some of this stuff. The knots people twist themselves in on all sides just to conform with the fucking control mechanism. It's mind-blowing. I hadn't really thought about it this deeply.
Well, I found this interesting product that you can get, Adam, when you find yourself in that situation.
Oh.
It's called racism insurance.
Oh, well, this is groovy. I can barely afford health insurance. Now I need racism insurance.
Well, there's an ISO or a jingle that tells you exactly what that is.
Oops, I was racist. Black guy, come here. Thank God for racism insurance.
There when you need it most. Racism insurance.
When you find yourself in that jam, that's all you got to do.
It's all right, man. You got racism insurance. Have you ever seen Kentucky Fried Movie?
No, I haven't.
Yeah. You should, if you have a chance, watch that on Netflix one of these days, and then and we should talk about it. Some interesting scenes in there. Yeah. Just to remind me of the racism insurance. I don't want to blow the scene, but yeah.
Right. But yeah, that's when the black friend won't work. Yeah, go out and run out and get yourself some racism insurance.
Right on. Right on. My racism insurance.
Right. So she goes on to say that it's actually race that divides us.
First of all, we're already divided by race. And focusing on race is not what did it. I would say not focusing on race, refusing to grapple with how race shapes virtually everything is what keeps us divided. And that is a very white narrative. All of those narratives function to get race off the table, close the exploration, exempt the person from any further engagement, and protect the racial hierarchy and the white position with it, which is an unequal hierarchy. The challenge I want to offer my fellow white people is changing the question from if to how. So dominant culture asks if I'm racist. And I want to change that question to how have I been shaped by the forces of racism?
Oh, now she threw a curveball at the end. I thought it was going to be, how am I racist? But then it was, hold on a second, she said something completely different. I wasn't expecting that. Became a whole exercise. Hold on, let me say the end here.
To how have I been shaped by the forces of racism?
How have I been shaped by the forces of racism? Huh?
How? Translation, how have you been made racist?
Oh, by other white people.
Yeah.
Telling me so.
So I want to make it clear. And one of these long, I had to watch so many seminars and retraining, re-education. Jesus Christ.
No, I rarely hear you take the Lord's name in vain.
Yeah. Man, I was like, oh, is it going to ever end? I thought I was going to have white fragility there for a minute from the re-education that she was doing. I mean, it's sick. I mean, they have these people in these rooms. It's like they're buy-in like,
this, by the way, I put a pin in this one. He said, I would love to do a show, if we can pull it together, about training, diversity training, the corporate stuff. It's every company has it. And I think there's a lot there that could be really good, but a lot that could be damaging for all.
And this is the type of person they would bring in. She wrote a book on it. And
what was her name?
I actually watched it. Her name is, why did you have to ask me again?
Sorry.
D'Angelo.
That was the same woman, Robin D'Angelo?
Yes,
okay.
This is all Robin.
That's
Robin
all
J.
her?
This is all her.
She's a troublemaker.
Yeah, so they bring her in and she does these re-education.
She does. Wow. Re-education camp?
Yes.
Oh, great.
That's because what she's saying is you have to identify how you're being made racist, and then we need to rewire you, basically. That's the whole gist of this whole thing.
Well, yeah, that's what the term means, re-education, sure.
Yeah. So, of course, I scoured the internet to find the counter argument. And I found Dr. Paul Maxwell. Let me give you a little bio on him. It says Paul Maxwell, PhD, explores the intersection theology, psychology, and politics, marketing professional and expert in celebrity franchise branding, tech, publishing, nonprofit, and higher education. And and most of all, he's a podcaster.
Well, hello. Now I know who it is. Yeah, sure.
Right. Well, when you Google him, I need to give you this disclaimer. Dr. Paul Maxwell 0.
Now, you probably think, listen, I'm kind of bald, you know, I kind of look like a skinhead. Like, where's this guy going, right? Like, listen, I'm not about to go on some like white rights pro white rant. I'm not, okay?
Yeah, so I did look him up, and okay, yeah, I can see how you'd be like, whoa, wait a minute, what's this guy doing? Yeah,
just natural reflex. I was like, well, let me see what. But as I do, I pay attention to everything.
That was your bias. You were judging by the thickness of his hair, as usual.
No, the baldness of his scalp.
Yeah.
To be more specific. But he to give people a mental image of who we're talking about before you Google and while you listen to the show. If you ever seen the movie Higher Learning, he looks like the character Remy. From Higher Learning, which was a skinhead. I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
Just honest opinion. When I saw him, I was like, okay. But I was like, okay, I'm gonna hear this guy out because that's what we do here, right? We hear both sides, and he has a very interesting take on white fragility in 1.1.
So we will begin by talking about a particular book. This is a book by sociologist Robin J. DiAngelo. And she writes in her book called White Fragility, Why It's So Hard for White People to Talk About Racism. And she's a white female. And DiAngelo writes that white people are so dazzled by their whiteness that their own regular, normative, explicit, and implicit reasons for violence against racial minorities are actually camouflaged to them. So they almost can't even conceive of themselves as racist. But not only are these racist practices camouflaged to whites, but when these practices are brought under the stage light through conversation or reading or cultural messaging, and when they are diagnosed or highlighted and challenged by minority culture, such that white culture's enchantment with its own whiteness is threatened, that they resort to denial tactics, which refortify their enchantment with whiteness and center their own whiteness and recenter their own whiteness as the cultural center and the cultural norm, and recast minority ethnicity and culture as marginal and exotic.
It makes you sound psychotic, really, if you hear the way it's being explained.
Well, they use another word besides psychotic, and we're going to get to that. But I have a question for you, Adam. When's the last time you've been dazzled by your whiteness?
Well, let me tell you, Mo. In fact, no. Just today, my wife and I were taking our dancing lesson. I looked in the mirror because it's a dance studio, and I thought, wow, you dance like an idiot. Yeah, no. And of course, not dazzled by my whiteness. Crap.
Who uses these terms, man? But it's just fascinating.
But isn't that just projection? I'm sure. I mean, I see this picture of her. I immediately have all kinds of preconceived notions about her. I don't like her just the way she looks. It's like one of those people like, okay, one of these, troublemaker.
Now, I know exactly what you mean when you say one of these, because she is and I don't want to use, lack of a better word, stereotypical. What was her profession? PhD in multicultural education.
I was just about to look her up. I said, I'll bet you it was like political science with a diversity minor or something. It's so obvious.
Yeah, I mean, just the look. I mean, and we're not judging people on looks. It's like when you see a person, it's like, oh,
we are. It's what this whole show is about. Of course, we're judging people on looks. Don't fool yourself.
Well, not their look, but the way they fit into a stereotypical role.
Yeah, PhD in multicultural education from the University of Washington with a dissertation entitled Whiteness in Racial Dialogue, a Discourse Analysis. Oh, okay.
All right. So let's just go straight into 1.2.
Okay, so in other words, DiAngelo makes two simultaneous claims. One, whites are peculiarly mentally weak, especially when it comes to race. And two, she's able to make individual psychiatric diagnoses of individual whites by using their race as a proxy for diagnosis. 3, she is licensing anyone who drinks the Kool-Aid of this white privilege concept to extend that diagnosis to individuals with whom they converse who actually happen to disagree with them about this issue of white fragility or race or white privilege or so on and so forth.
So it's a lose-lose.
Yes, of course it is. It's the whole point.
Yeah, and it's one thing I did fail to mention here. Even in her talks or speeches or whatever else, she's not talking to your Trump supporter.
Oh no,
she's not talking to your idealistic Trump. Let me clarify that. She's not talking to what you picture in your mind. You would think like somebody with a MAGA hat on.
No, quite the opposite. No,
she's talking to liberals.
Thank you. Your Elizabeth Warren voter, your Bernie voter, your Pete Buttigieg voter, and yes, your Biden voter. Sure.
Yeah, so that's who she's talking about, because she's saying, "Oh, y'all," and she even said it in one of her. It was unclippable because I would have brought it if it was, but it was like in a roundabout way. She was like, "You guys are really the biggest problem because you say you don't have it."
Right.
I have black friends. I live in proximity to black people.
What? You racist? Right. You? What are you even thinking of saying?
Right. So that's who she's talking to. That's her audience. This is not. She's not going to middle America with this conversation. She's
well. Hold on. I put this in the show notes. She did for the University of Kentucky. That's the South.
Mm-hmm.
A 2-hour racial justice keynote and breakout session in March of 2019, excluding travel expenses, housing accommodations, and meals. She also got $12,000. So maybe we shouldn't mock this too much, and we should figure out how we can get in on it. I'm thinking
all money ain't good money.
I think a racial justice podcast with breakout session. I mean, we'll come up with something, Mo. I think we can. Oh, wait. Maybe people could consider donating to the show. See, and I'll just do it here since we're talking anyway. And we're going to start thanking people. Next show will be the PLS.
Yes.
The potluck special. And we're going to thank people, but this is going to be a show with different, shorter topics. And we're going to do those from time to time. And so we're going to try something out.
Similar to how the first segment of the show was. These many
diverse
topics, and we'll have 3 or 4 to 5 topics. How many ever to fit in together? It won't be one long stream of consciousness. It'll be segmented, and that point. And it's my fault, people. I see your donations. We much appreciate them. But me being the anal perfectionist that I am, I haven't found a great way of introducing that segment into the show. But we appreciate all the value we get. And please hit me on social media in the DMs if you've donated or if you haven't donated. And I like to have the conversation and the pushback because I get a lot of questions and things that challenge me to think. So I really appreciate it.
And this is running under the value for value model. And here you go. It's if we were taking our exact knowledge, changing a little bit, but even the stuff we're talking about right now, that's worth $12,000 for 2 hours, excluding travel expenses. So we expect to receive at least that. Go to moefundme.com, MOEFUND.com. No, seriously, it's whatever value you place on it. If you thought it was valuable.
And we'll throw in 2 votes, too. for cash.
Yeah, whatever. Send us $1,000. We'll vote for your guy or your gal or whatever your thing, whatever. This is right. We're not embarrassed. Hey, Vermin Supreme's been my guy. Vermin Supreme is my guy. All right, so let's continue. I'm sorry.
All right, let's get back on track. No, that was perfect timing, but let's just get back on track. And you made a claim that you said it makes you seem what way? Psychotic?
Yeah, psychotic or egomaniac, maybe.
That's not necessarily the word Paul uses, but let's listen to him.
So she argues that white people are so socialized by their whiteness that they cannot, without proper racial education and re-education, accurately perceive the extent to which their racist prejudice against minorities is baked into their own worldview. Okay? White people are, in this presentation, philosophically and specularly handicapped by their own race about their own race. Okay, so DeAngelo appeals to her own academic authority as a sociologist to fortify this claim that whites are epistemologically handicapped relative to other races. And it is on this assumption of white philosophical short-sightedness or handicap that programs such as racial bias training and implicit bias training have been suggested as cures to perceived racism among whites.
Yes, it's very similar, as I was thinking about this, to something known as the self-loathing Jew. Mm-hmm. Very similar in definition.
But you're missing the opportunity here.
Uh-oh.
Adam.
Yes.
You get another merit badge.
Oh, of course.
You're handicapped.
Ah, wow.
That's according to this is a disability. So, I mean, you move up on the ladder if you accept it.
Which by itself, in an odd way, is again advancing the white man over everybody else. Even as a victim, I'm a better victim than you.
You've just realized the whole. I'm glad you walked right into that realization without me even having to say it.
Well, I had the goggles off.
Right? No. You justify what they're doing is. Excuse my white privilege because I have a disability.
This is fucking crazy. Okay, I'm going to use that too. I'm so sorry. I have a disability. I have white privilege.
No, your disability is the white fragility.
No, of course. Of course.
So when people say, "Oh yeah, you have
white privilege."
Let's go this again. Adam, do you realize you have white privilege?
I don't have white privilege.
You're showing signs of white fragility, Adam.
I know. I'm so sad about this status. I can't even do it.
Yeah, I'm disabled.
I'm disabled. I need a parking sticker for the handicap zone. I'm sorry, disabled. Disabled.
Yeah, but no, this... What I'm saying, this is how sick.
Yeah, it is.
That they can just label whatever, and we're saying this in jest, but it's a sign of sickness what she's doing here. To say, I know my privilege, but and I might get irked if you remind me of it, but that's a disability.
Isn't it great?
I was sitting back like, wow, you just wow.
What you think? I'm a low information voter, Mo. Just leave me along. I'll go right to the water.
Right. So now you can go get your
my badge.
Yeah, you can get your badge and your sticker. I mean, there you go.
Yes.
But I'm making that analogy because to say that to somebody that actually has a real problem. Yeah. That really has a disability.
Yeah, it's how insulting.
Insulting is that?
Mm-hmm.
It irks me, but I didn't.
But you know what it is? It's a version of it, and I haven't fleshed it out yet. But emotional support animals has something to do with this somehow, versus real specialized and dogs.
It's exactly what it is.
And people take advantage of that, and so they're literally using their bullshit emotional support. And look, if people have real emotional problems, some of them have animals for that. They're trained specifically. It's ADA compliant. I've studied this from backwards and forwards. But no. I have emotional problems. Here's my dog, and now I get to board early and take my dog with me.
That's the exact manifestation of this mentality.
Yeah.
So, I'm guessing you're asking, well, how do you spot white fragility, and is there a cure?
Programs such as racial bias training and implicit bias training have been suggested as cures to perceived racism among whites. And this is how scientists have begun to quantify racial prejudice among whites, to give them a test that shows them several dozen black and white images of faces of various races on the screen, right? And classified an ability to distinguish between the faces of participants' own race versus faces of races to which the participant didn't belong, okay? So any extended delay in the participant's ability to distinguish between other race faces was classified as social stereotyping, and therefore a low score on what they called the affective lexical priming score. So in other words, if you're a few milliseconds slow on distinguishing black faces from one another, you're a racist, okay?
Oh, man. Well, you know that AI is completely racist. All the algorithms have trouble with black faces, dark skin tone. So it's all racist. Racist computers.
So I'm sure you're wondering, what is implicit bias testing?
Well, oh, yes. Believe me, I want to know.
So I had to do some digging. I had to go real deep. And I found this Dateline NBC episode from 2007.
Nice.
This is how old this thing is. And implicit association.
Now, wait, do you think this was being released around the time that Barack Obama was running for president, I guess? Just for context. I
think there's a correlation there, sir.
Okay. All right.
So, implicit association test 1.
You may be saying, not me, I'm not prejudiced. But is it possible that virtually all of us have a hidden racial bias, hidden even from ourselves? That's exactly what this test is designed to uncover. Here's how it works. These words and faces appear rapidly, one after another, around the screen. The test taker is supposed to link each one to the left or right box here in the center, linking positive words like friend to good, negative words like awful to bad, white faces with white, black faces with black. And it's the mistakes that are so revealing.
Oh, I had another thought while this was going.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just tell you because it just came out. This show, and I don't know, we'll make, who knows how many we'll make, but up until now, you could take these 24 episodes, bundle them, nice leather binder, gold inlay, and sell them as educational courses. I'm thinking, if you really want to know about racism, white supremacy, listen to this, kids. And put the kids in the classroom, let them listen. Then I'd say, $1,000 a school.
I think it'd be far more effective than whatever
whatever this crap
they're pushing on them now.
Yes, sirree.
So when I saw this segment, a connective happening in my brain. Have you heard of the show Watchmen on HBO?
Yes, I started. It started a while ago. I remember watching the first episode, and at that moment, I was just like, "This is just too stressful for me. I'll come back to it later." And I haven't gotten back to it, but I have heard people ranting.
You saw the first episode.
I did, yeah.
If you saw the first episode, you saw a dramatization of the implicit bias testing.
And this is probably why it bothered me, Mo. I mean, I hadn't even thought about it that way.
You remember when the guy with the mirror mask took the white supremacists in the pod and they had the pictures flashing?
Yeah. Yes.
That was a dramatization of the implicit bias testing.
Oh, my God.
They're feeding this stuff into
they're mainlining it, man, right into your brain, right into the cranium.
So let me back up a little bit.
Now I have to watch this piece of shit. Thanks.
Yeah, so Watchmen, in the show, they had this terrorist attack or whatever, and they round up all these supposed white supremacists, and they put them in this like circle room,
Right.
And on the walls, they're showing all these polarizing racial images. And the guy's asking this guy questions like, are you a racist? Are you a white supremacist? Are you a member of, like, I forgot the name of the group, 7th Cavalry or whatever, which is like basically the KKK.
Right.
And like he's taking notes while he's asking these questions. That's basically how implicit bias testing works in a roundabout way. But when I saw this Dateline NBC special,
that's when you put it all together.
My brain went there, and I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like, excuse my language, but yeah, I'm like, wow, like they're pumping this stuff into entertainment.
Well, you know what's interesting, and what you can be very proud of, we both can be proud of, is that my response was of rejection. And I don't know what else was going on, but I sat down specifically to watch it. And I have time sometimes during the day. You know, like, I'm going to watch an hour of something. And I remember turning it on, and it was that was my thought. It's stressful. And, you know, I wasn't completely into the story, but I think because of this podcast and my outlook in general, but this podcast definitely has given me some kind of weaponry against this propaganda. I rejected it out of hand and hadn't gone back to it. Now, of course, I have to watch the whole thing, the whole series. But
I didn't see the whole series.
But that oh no! Now let me do it. I'll jump on that grenade.
Okay, thank you. Because it was like, oh, you're trying to prod me and manipulate me, and I don't do the trauma-based entertainment. But the only reason I watched it because one, it was free HBO that weekend, and two, somebody had this is how the DMs work, and I implore people, please reach out to me on social media, because I love that back and forth. I can't promise you a 2-hour conversation, but
interesting.
Just a couple back and forth.
It was just
somebody said.
Go ahead. No, please.
No, somebody said you need to watch Watchmen because they talk about Tulsa and the bombing back when Black Wall Street. So that's what drew me in. I was like, I want to see how they use this historical event. You know, and I was not surprised how they propagandized it, but
I want to share this anecdote about Watchmen. I was in the bookstore, and it's a very good bookstore that we have here in Austin. It's called Goodreads. I think. Is it Goodreads? No, not Goodreads. That's Austin Bookstore. I don't know. It's next to Whole Foods, people. And so I'm in there, and I'm looking for something that wasn't for a gift. And I hear this young couple, so probably early mid-20s. And he says, did you hear that they're not going to come back with another series of Watchmen? And she was like, oh, my God, that's why? He's like, well, the producer, blah, blah. And I heard this, and I was like, wow, that sounds like a show I absolutely don't want to watch if these two dickheads are so upset about it being canceled. I mean, it sounds horrible. And now I understand. These were the zombies. The programmed zombies were there. Lucky that they didn't scratch me. They were right there.
Mm-hmm. They almost got you.
Yeah. This is really good. All right. That's a lot of sidetracking, but worth it. Thank you.
Because it was just, I wanted to point that out, how they feed this stuff into pop culture. But let's get back to Implicit Test 2.
Dateline put this experiment to a difficult challenge, testing a cross-section of men and women, including some who have impeccable credentials in race relations. People like Rhonda, a civil rights attorney.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, here it is.
During the first half of the test, black is linked to bad and white is linked to good.
Right.
For Rhonda, this half of the test is a breeze. She never makes a mistake.
Okay, very good. Now, we'll give you the other one.
Okay.
But let's see how she does when the information is reversed. When the left box, marked bad, has a white face, and the right box, labeled good, has a black face.
Left.
Suddenly the test becomes much more difficult for Rhonda. About a third of the way through, she makes a mistake, linking the white face to the right box, even though that shows a black face.
I lost it.
Okay.
Rhonda's score indicates a strong preference for white.
There it is.
Is this because she unconsciously associates white with good?
Whoa, wow.
And that's the basis of your test, right there.
I wonder what the neuroscience is behind that. Wow. Okay.
So they just flashing pictures, good, bad, and then they do in reverse order.
You missed one. Racist.
Right. And Rhonda was distraught. She's like, oh my God.
I can't believe I'm a racist. I can't believe I thought black was bad.
And there's your exit strategy right there, Adam. Instead of your app, implicit bias app. It's like
just flash that shit in front of your. Yeah. With the Tinder element. I like it, Mo. I like it. All right, let's finish the show up so we can start working on the design.
All right. Implicit test 3.
And as revealing as those results are, the biggest surprise is yet to come.
Left.
Joan is a sales and marketing consultant. Even for many black test takers, the more challenging part of the test seems to be when black is associated with good and white with bad.
Okay, didn't get halfway through. We'll start over. Okay. Ready, set.
After 2 attempts, she still can't make it to the end.
I've done it again.
Even so, Joan still thought she'd show a preference for her own race.
Would you be surprised then, Joan, if I said that your test showed a slight preference for whites?
Yes, I would be.
Does it shock you?
Yes.
You're flabbergasted.
I'm flabbergasted.
And Joan isn't alone. Dennis is the leader of a civil rights organization. According to his test in the studio, Dennis is neutral. But his individual computer test showed a preference for white. His response?
All we had in images were whites through the type of media outlets that we were exposed to during my age generation. And that was a constant reinforcement over and over again.
You're a bad person.
So even the black people are racist. Like, what kind of test is this?
It's because of the white supremacist television.
Of course, exactly what it is. It's not that the test can be maybe confusing.
So he's a racist black man, but is also he's disabled because it was the fault of the white supremacist media that made him that way.
That's if you lean into the victimization mentality. So you have to accept it.
Yep.
Accept if you accept that victimization mentality, which I'm not poo-pooing the power of propaganda. But if propaganda can make you unlearn what you know, what you experience, that's some powerful stuff, man.
You're not kidding me.
I mean, because you don't have the excuse of quote unquote white people say, well, I don't know any black people, so maybe the news is telling the truth, maybe the TV is telling the truth. You live and experience black people every day. So either we have to have it one way. Either mass media is running this super powerful propaganda machine that's nobody's immune to, or you have to accept the victimization mentality. So which one is it? But it's got to be one or the other.
Right.
So it gets even more interesting in test 4.
Of the African Americans the professors have tested, 42% show a preference for whites. A large number, especially when you consider that only 17% of whites show a preference for blacks.
Go.
Left, right.
And what of the other African Americans we tested? Heather is an assistant district attorney. On the part of the test where the black face is paired with the word bad, Heather has noticeable difficulty and can't finish. She showed a strong preference for African Americans, and her pride was unabashed.
This made me feel more comfortable knowing that I've embraced my culture.
Left.
Randolph, a high school music teacher, also showed a preference for his own race.
Does it concern you at all that you have a strong preference for African Americans?
Does that score mean that I do not like European Americans? No. Is my subconscious aware of the condition that African Americans are in this country at this particular point? My conscious is.
Does Does it concern you?
Does it concern you, sir? Does it concern you that you could possibly, you know what I'm saying, right? Does it concern you that you're like yourself?
Right. And people that happen to look like you.
Do you have
Which
more?
now under
tests.
the definition of nepotism,
right?
That's that definition again.
Yeah.
Do you have a preference for people that look like you? That's a problem. in these people's eyes, that's a no. You know, you can't. No.
This is a multi-layered trap. This is great.
Well, you can't. It's a labyrinth.
Yeah, labyrinth. Yeah, exactly.
You can't escape. I mean, whatever turn you run into is a dead end. It's like, oh, racist, or you're, have a self-identity problems, which were caused by the racist television. So it's like you never, white or black, you can never escape having free thought. That's not an option. It's like it has to be a reason behind why you feel the way you feel. And being a free thinker, that's totally bad.
This is verboten. We can't have that.
You can't have that free thinking.
No.
But let's wrap up with this Dateline NBC on Test 5.
All right, I'm going to pass this one. I think I can do this.
The professors note that there's a difference in reactions between blacks and whites when they find out they have a preference for their own race.
Of course it bothers me, but
you could say it's pride or prejudice. What blacks consider a badge of healthy self-esteem, many whites regard as an embarrassing revelation.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the way it's designed.
Mm-hmm. So you can't escape it.
Can I play a little NA jingle here that's appropriate to because a lot of people may not have heard this one and it'd be fun to play.
Please.
It's just a shorty.
If you're white, you're a racist. If you're male, you're a pig. If you're cis, you are privileged. Skinny shaming if you're big. And if you're straight, you're homophobic. Heaven help if you're wrong. So don't have an opinion and just do what you're told.
There you go, everybody. Do what you're told. The great secret agent Paul.
Just do what you're told.
Do what you're told. That's exactly it. And for all those categories, I mean, we're talking about skin color right now. Of course, that's part of the conversation, but there's a lot of it. Sexuality, gender, all of it's in there. Control.
So, I don't like to be part of the problem. I like to be more of part of the solution.
Yes, we always love that.
And so what I did was I dug, and I found this training video of how to deal with white fragility in the workplace.
Okay.
Hey, Jen, I really like your hair.
Thanks, Becky.
I think the curls are awesome.
Wait. The girl's name is literally Becky. Okay, let's try it again.
Hey, Jen, I really like your hair.
Thanks, Becky.
I think the curls are awesome. Black hair's the best.
Can you not do that? It's kind of inappropriate.
What? Why?
Well, it's kind of racist.
Whoa!
You're probably wondering what went wrong in this workplace interaction between Becky and Jen. Unless you have a keen understanding of racial discrimination in today's workforce, you probably didn't notice that something very offensive has taken place. Jen called Becky the R word, causing Becky to feel shame and sadness. How can we avoid situations like this?
Whoa. Wait a minute. That's also a hijack of the R word. That's not okay. I want the OG R word is now gone. We can't even use that anymore now.
So let's continue on.
Oh, please.
Because this is a very informative training video.
Oh, yeah. Now you said you were trying to be part of the solution, and you give me this.
Yes, because we're gonna fix people. We're here to re-educate.
Yes, re-education.
Yes. Workplace 2.
Workplace discrimination is a very serious issue, and we have to be sensitive to our employees' different ethnic and cultural backgrounds. And just as it's important to be sensitive to our Black, Arab, and other non-white coworkers, it's also equally important to be sensitive to our white coworkers' sensitivity to that sensitivity.
on, stop. I got to stop. I got to listen to that again.
Important to be sensitive to our Black, Arab, and other non-white coworkers. It's also equally important to be sensitive to our white coworkers' sensitivity.
We have to be sensitive for the white coworkers' sensitivity. Okay, I'm just taking notes.
To that sensitivity.
Whoa, shoot. Wait, I'm sorry. There's 3 sensitivities. Let's do it again.
Equally important to be sensitive to our white coworkers' sensitivity to that sensitivity.
We have... Okay, to be sensitive to the white person's sensitivity to their sensitivity.
Yes.
No wonder kids are on antidepressants.
Can you believe that Trump wants to build a wall? I mean, that must really bother you as a Mexican.
Actually, I am Bolivian.
How dare you? I went to Berkeley.
Sometimes racial discrimination in the workplace can happen unintentionally. Take, for instance, this scene where Marco accidentally angered Tom by correcting him. Marco may not be Mexican, but correcting Tom in that manner made Tom confused, scared, and hostile. This situation could have been avoided altogether. Let's see how.
Oh boy, I'm so happy we're going to find out how.
2.1.
Oh my goodness, this is I'm trying to process it all. It's very you had advantage here. You've heard all this once before or multiple times. Okay, I just want to process that one. Professor Ted Kaczynski wrote in his famous manuscript Industrial Society and Its Future. He's a Harvard professor. You can look him up. You'll be amazed when you learn about him. He wrote that one of the problems of technology in the future would be over-socialization of children. And what I just heard, going back to the previous clip, with the sensitive to the sensitivity about that sensitivity, that is over-socialization right there. Because you're socialized and you have to be so sensitive to everything and to everybody that your brain is running at just 3,000 RPM all the time just to process all the information, and it makes you tired.
It does,
and probably depressed. All right. Okay. Yes. I'm sorry. We'll go to the next one so we can continue and learn about this. I'm fascinated how I can fix myself.
Can you believe Trump wants to build a wall? I mean, that must really bother you as a Mexican.
Yeah.
I love Mexicans. They're so hardworking.
Yeah, yes, we are great.
Viva la Mexico!
Crisis averted.
What? What? Are you kidding me? That's how you feel. Viva Mexico. Crisis averted, everybody. Wow.
All right. Part 3.
What is this from? Where did this come from?
This is from
is this a joke?
Al Jazeera Plus.
This is serious.
No.
Thank God. She's like, who knows, man? This could be played in schools for all I know.
There's a reason to my madness.
No, I understand.
Let's continue.
All right.
Every day we learn more about how people of color live with histories of oppression. And every day we forget about those who also live with those histories, the oppressors. You see, the average person of color has spent years developing a thick skin when it comes to systemic racial oppression, while the average white person can go through many of their formative years without ever having to think about race. So hearing about racism can be traumatic for your white coworkers and create a negative work environment. White privilege might seem like everything is easier all the time, and it is. But it can also be hard, because feelings are hard.
This is genius. This is very good. I like it.
So, this goes back to what we talked about. We're dealing with people, not my words. White fragility is a disability. So, if you take this literally, it's on the onus of the person that's not disabled to make the environment more palatable and
yes,
to the person with the disability.
Yes, unless they have one leg, then I don't know if that wins.
What I'm just saying is, in this, this is a spoof,
but it's not that far from reality.
If you take it literal that the people that you're dealing with are actually dealing with a illness, then it's on you to provide.
That first clip had me totally hooked. I thought it was totally real.
It could be.
Yes.
This is the dimension thing.
Wow.
You were in one dimension.
Yep, I sure was.
Looking at it. That's why I didn't say anything. You were in one dimension looking at it, so you're like, this seems real.
Totally real.
Which it is if you take this term white fragility serious on its own merit.
Yeah. You tricked me, Mo. Well, that was good. That's very good.
Well, let's get into the solution.
Yeah, woo! I can't wait.
Being sensitive to white fragility is difficult, which is why we've devised a simple system to help you foster a non-hostile work environment for your white employees and co-workers. Stop, ignore, listen, empathize, never complain, and eat.
What?
Or as we like to call it, the silence system. Here, let's watch what happens when silence is put into action.
That's your solution.
Silence.
Silence. Adam, would you care to see silence in action?
I would love to see some silence in action, Mo.
4.1.
So I'm not racist.
Stop.
Like, I voted for Obama.
Ignore.
Like, I understand the reason for the Black Lives Matter movement.
Listen.
But it's just like, all lives do matter.
Empathize.
I just feel like race really isn't relevant in America anymore.
Never complain.
You're really easy to talk to, Adrian.
And eat. That's right. Excellent. Adrian was able to diffuse a potentially hostile work situation by using silence. Great work, Adrian. America is a beautiful country built on some ugly things. Things that just don't belong in the workplace. And in order to remain productive, we must all pitch in to protect our most powerful and most fragile. Because when silence works, everyone works. So let's all be sensitive. White sensitive.
Very good. Very, very, very good.
Now, there you have it. That is the wrap up of White Fragility.
Yeah, excellent, Mo. Thank you. You helped a lot. I'm going to have to review this for myself, particularly the fact that, this is the bottom line. My takeaway: let's get together, brothers and sisters of all human resources, and fight the real power, the true supremacy, the bloodlines, who obviously are have figured out through media how to keep us enslaving ourselves. It's a fantastic system.
It works. It
works like a mofo. It's fantastic. Now, of course, inherently, people who probably listen to this podcast already have some armor against this. But it's what a fantastic way to unpack it. Thank you, Mo. I really appreciate it. I always do, but this is another one of those. I'm like, I'm going to go downstairs, tell Tina, like, oh, man, you're just going to have to cancel work. You got to listen to this. She only has a 10-minute commute now, so it's a problem.
Oh, man, it sucks.
It does. I know. I hate my commute. It's too short. This is the kind of value that we love to bring to you. Please consider sending some monetary value. Use a number that means something to you. Write us a note. We're going to be talking about some of those on the next episode, 25. And you can find us at mofactz.com to go directly to the donation page, mofundme.com, MOEFUND.com.
And as I always say, pay attention to everything and the truth will reveal itself.
And the truth will reveal itself tomorrow. Tomorrow will reveal itself next week. I can't wait. That's why I wanted it for tomorrow. Take care, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.
Knowing that your door is always open and your path is free to walk. That makes me know that I can leave my sleeping bag behind your couch. It's knowing I'm not shackled by forgotten words and bonds, and your ink stains that have dried upon some line. On the back road, rivers of my memory, each ever chill on my mind, chill on my mind, chill on my mind. It's not clinging to some rocks that I've been planted on some column now that fine. No, it's not. Or something that somebody said. Because if all we stick together, we didn't, baby. It's knowing that the world will not be cursing or forgiving when they turn around and find that you're moving on the back road. You're still on my memory. You're ever still on my mind. Still on my mind. Yes, you're baby. Still on my mind. Oh, 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 oh.